Thunder, like you've seen it a million times.
Good morning, and welcome back to American Truck Simulator. I'm David Steele, and here's me truck. Not that you can see particularly well from up here, but I'm going to go ahead and attempt to maneuver this thing on without really having an idea what I'm looking at. Yeah, this might be a bit of a challenge, but what's the worst that happens, right? Now let's try this. Okay, so that is the FLX Peterbilt 359, and it's a day cab. It's got quite a long chassis for a day cab, but it's the shortest one that was available. And I managed to not get it organized, or perhaps I did. Is that close enough? Let's just try. Nope, I guess not. All right, I'm gonna have to jump into the cabin. Let's get this window down and take a look and see what's what. Oh, I see. Okay. Right. I suppose I'll just make sure I've lowered it, which I have. Yep. Okay. So in terms of year of this truck, this is an early 1970s. I think it's a 1970, 1971. It obviously looks shiny and pretty. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let's go back here. I'm going to go ahead and switch to the external view. Let's reset the ride height and connect the trailer, like so. I'm going to go ahead and shut the window because it's a noisy engine. Yes, this is it's a nice looking truck, and I've gone for a fairly basic spec, as basic as I could. Well, for the most part. Steel wheels, aluminium bits and pieces, or aluminum if you prefer. And yeah, I like this truck. Let's jump back in the cabin. Now we've got a bit of time pressure today. Let's see. Okay, it reckons I'm going to actually be over my time here. Let's get the thing moving. Okay. I may be able to make up some time. I'm probably just going to be late, and that's okay. If it happens, it happens. So we're off to Bozeman today. Okay, and under the hood is an engine that likely it is that when you're watching this is been in the Steel Productions engine pack for about 2 weeks, give or take. And under the hood today we have a Cummins Super 250 paired up with a 10-speed overdrive box with a 433 final drive. So what you may be thinking is a Super 250. Well, the 250 is the power rating of this particular engine. So what's so super about that? Well, this engine has an interesting bit of a backstory to it, and I'm not going to be able to do it full justice by trying to explain the whole story because I don't have all of the detail. But let me just say that 55 years ago in the late 1960s, the emissions laws were changing for 1970. So this whole issue with the emissions changing and manufacturers having to adapt engines to suit incoming changes in the law, it is nothing new. For 1970 there were a few changes, such as no more visible smoke. Visible smoke was going to be illegal. And so the various manufacturers, and in this case in particular we're focusing on Cummins because it's a Cummins engine, had to rework their engines to make sure that they were compliant. Now at the time, Cummins had the H and the NH series of engines, and that's a very massive simplification. which were either a 12.2 litre, more commonly known as a 743 cubic inch, or an 855. The 855 is a 14 litre. That went on to become the big cam, the N14. But the Super is neither of those. No, the Super is a larger capacity engine. It's actually 927 cubic inches, or 15.2 litres. And it has no turbocharger. That's right, this thing is naturally aspirated, or NA, or Atmo, or whatever you wish to call it. So that makes it interesting. And we like interesting. So yes, 250 horsepower, 15.2 litre engine. It's an inline six. It has an estimated 755 foot-pounds of torque, and I say estimated because finding information or exact specification on this particular engine has been challenging. So I've had to go with best endeavour, I suppose, best guess, looking at other engines in its time period from the Cummins stable and looking at the power output and the reputation that the engine has amongst drivers of the day. And that reputation was along the lines of, this thing is a torque monster, but loses its verve as you climb through the revs. I've attempted to basically mimic that. Let's see, we're in 9th gear. We're at full power, and I wouldn't be surprised if this truck was smoking just a little under load like this. But for argument's sake, we're just going to be like it's not. So yeah, it's an interesting engine. 15.2 litres is, well, it was fairly short-lived. And why did Cummins... See, Cummins already had a 250 horsepower engine. They had an NH 250, and I believe they had a 12.2 and also an 855, or a 14 litre. So why did they feel the need to produce another 250 horsepower engine? Well, it's all to do with emissions. They felt at the time that it would be cheaper or more cost efficient for them to develop a bigger engine without the turbocharger that could deliver the 250 horsepower that they wanted to bring to the market. And still comply with the emissions regulations. Now, the reason why the Super 250, there was also a Super 270 that had a turbocharger. The reason why they were not particularly popular is because actually Cummins realized that meeting those emission standards really wasn't as easy as they hoped. So there aren't supposed to be many of these engines left, but when I was modelling this engine and trying to build it for the Steel Productions engine pack, and yes, that's another shameless plug, this is a very enjoyable engine. The caveat being, you know, it's not powerful. And the reason why I'm using a day cab is because I wanted the smallest, lightest truck, and I wanted it to be period accurate. So, yeah, it's not exactly a powerful truck. It doesn't need to be for the chosen market. Actually, I need to see what's happening from the driver's perspective here, I think. As you can see, I'm clipping along at 65, but I'm also doing 1700 revs. Advantages to not having a turbocharger. Well, at the time, turbochargers had been around for at least a decade. They were well understood, they were known, they had their own engineering complications. They were a bit more expensive to manufacture compared with a naturally aspirated engine. There's probably a bit more to it. If you happen to read the operation manual for the Cummins H and NH engines, you know, if you have a turbocharger, they ask that you let it idle for several minutes before turning the engine off. They also say don't let it idle too long because that's bad for it. If it can't maintain cylinder temperatures, your fuel washes the oil off the inside of the engine, and that's bad for it too. Okay, great example here. It's lugging down to 1200 RPM, and it did downshift. It's going to want to downshift probably another couple of times. But the smaller capacity Cummins NH engines, not really capable of the same thing. There's turbocharged and supercharged versions. The Cummins dropped the supercharger at the end of the 60s. They They didn't bother to try and put those engines through the emission standards. They focused on turbocharging, also aftercooling as well. Yeah, it's yeah, look at this. It's lugging down to just over 1200 revs, and it's quite happy with that. That's what drivers say that it did, and I had to spend a bit of time to tune the sort of shift points on this engine and the torque curve, but to the best that I can tell, and hey, if you know different, leave a comment, please let me know. But the best that I can tell, this is close, or as close to how the engine perhaps was back in the day. This is how the thing drove. And a lot of drivers liked this engine, even though it didn't stick around for very long. I am speeding. I need to get my speed down to 45. That's another advantage of having a higher capacity engine. You've got a more effective engine brake because there's more of the engine to act as a brake. Is it going to hold it? I mean, maybe. Yeah, it's just about holding it. I'm doing 46, but it is holding speed. Now quick check on my time here. Oh wow, I've lost an hour. There, I'm way over my shift. I should really have stopped, but probably gonna get fined. But I don't really want to charge along. I want to just enjoy this Super 250 experience for what it is. Cargo today is £31,000. It's quite light, but it's a double. In fact, it's a Rocky Mountain double, I believe. Let's see if we can see it. Yeah, I think that's what classifies as a Rocky Mountain double. Oh. Okay, and of course, the speed limit changed, so numpty here didn't realise. Way to go, David, losing time. Okay, let's get back up. Well, let's get back up to 65 then, shall we? My limit is 70, but this is a World of Trucks drive today, so we're not going to be able to hit 70. We're speed limited to 65. Yes, and you will not hear a turbocharger when you listen to this engine. I removed it from the sound files. So any little whining that you hear is induction whine, or possibly exhaust whine, or some other noise, but not the turbocharger. I don't know. There's been something fun about testing fairly chunky inline 6 for the time at least, without a turbocharger. That smooth torque curve. There's no massive hike in torque as the turbocharger comes on song, although modern engines don't really do that in quite the same way. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it, and look at it again. It's lugging down to 1200, and it's not wanting to change down. Now, do I want to pull? I want to stop. I mean, I probably should, but I'm almost at my destination. 27 miles out. I'm not going to pull over. I'm just going to keep going. And if I get fined, then I deserved it. I'm working over my shift. It's Friday evening. I should be in the pub or the bar. I shouldn't be finishing my last load, but okay. So I think I just wanted to just drive around in this big Atmo donk, or using this big Atmo donk. And it's been a while since I've used the FLX 359. There's another 359 available too. It's Outlaw, I believe, and I like that one too. This is a contemporary truck for the time. You can also get the Peterbilt 351. I believe that was still in production in the early 70s. But that's a little older school than this. Okay, here's my exit. In addition to the Super 250, I worked on a variety of different NH series engines, a couple of supercharged engines thrown in there for good measure, and they were kind of fun to play around with. They don't. don't have a supercharged sound effect, but I can attempt to get close to it as much as I can. We've got some various turbocharged engines too, so I can tweak around with the turbos there and make them sound a little different. I should have pulled out there. Oh well. Oh, maybe I still can. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Sorry, truck. Oh wow. I guess I didn't need to apologize. Okay, come on. So the sluggishness off the line is not really associated with the fact that this is a naturally aspirated engine. It's because it's only got 250 horses under the hood and 755 foot-pounds of torque. Other than that, if you enjoy taking your time, if you enjoy the lower powered trucks, this is an engine you may well appreciate. And drive this back to back with some of the similar Cummins engines of the same time period, but the smaller capacity units, and you do notice a difference, especially over mountainous roads. That engine brake is useful. The ability of the engine to sort of lug down to sort of 1150, 1200 revs makes it for a different kind of experience. Well, the last thing we want to do is just look at our fuel consumption. None of these trucks of the day are really known for low fuel consumption. This is before the 1974 oil crisis, and so efficiency really wasn't necessarily a thing. I guess it was more about, yeah, we make our engines super efficient, which was really a case of saying we're better than the next guy. But were they efficient? Not especially. Though at least with no turbocharger, you've not got that to sort of suck fuel down, but then you need to burn fuel to make power, and if you need more power, then you're going to burn more fuel. In very simplistic terms, it's never that simple. There we go. Right, let's see how well we did. So, just 185 miles today, although that did seem to go pretty quick, which is always good. And we used about 33 gallons, so that's 5.5 to the gallon. No, it's a little bit more than that. Maybe 5.7, 5.8 to the gallon. For the time period, that is respectable. It's very respectable. I possibly slightly too high a miles per gallon figure, but finding an owner that remembers the real numbers is difficult, and this cargo, this gearbox, they likely used even shorter gearing back in the early 70s. Anyway, hope that you enjoyed today's video. It's been a lot of fun putting together some of these older engines, especially when you start deleting things like turbochargers. That's always fun. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. If you have, you know what to do. If you haven't, you also know what to do. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much, everyone. Goodbye.